and I have a migraine. It's not even 8 a.m. Okay, class. All right, next question. Johnny, on one condition, there is no cussing in my classroom. Hey, boss, you don't gotta worry about me. No fucking cussing. Shit, didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. Fuck, shit. Okay, I guess here's my question. So the other night, I went on a date with a couple of chicks, doing my thing, go to the restaurant, and I'm tracking all my calories, my macros, but I realized at the restaurant, I don't know how many calories they have in the food. And I'm thinking, I don't want to mess up all my progress that I've made already. How am I supposed to know how many calories are in their food if they're not putting how many calories are in their food? And even if they do, can I trust it? Because I'm just trying to look good and I don't want to screw up all my progress by that one meal out. So can you just tell me how I'm supposed to know how many calories are in the restaurant foods if I don't know how many calories are in the restaurant foods? All right, so just to practice brevity, Johnny, what you're asking is how do you track calories when you go out to eat and you aren't sure how many calories are in the food you're eating? This is one of the most common questions I get when it comes to fat loss, and a lot of people get anxiety at the idea of going to eat out at a restaurant, going out to eat with friends, to a party, whatever it is, they get anxious. They're like, I'm gonna ruin all my progress. The first and most important thing to remember here is that one meal will never, ever ruin your progress. That is the most important thing for you to get into your head and your heart right now. One meal never ruined anyone's progress. One of my favorite ways of explaining this is no one ever got skinny from having one salad, no one ever got fat from having one donut. Ever. So before you go out to eat and before you say no to celebrating a party or celebrating your graduation or celebrating your child's birthday or anything, before you say no to that and restrict and restrict and restrict and feel left out, remember that. From here, there's other things we can talk about and consider in order to make sure that you can do your best to stay on track. All right, so number one, and this is the most obvious, but I still get messages about it and people are still surprised when I tell them. So just in case you don't know, you can Google the name of the restaurant and see if they have a list of calories per menu item. A lot of them do. If they don't, that's okay. We'll go into other strategies. But always first check the Google machine just to make sure to see if they have a list of the calories per menu item. But let's say they don't have the calories listed. This is where a lot of people get freaked out and worried they're gonna ruin all their progress. Again, remember, number one is you're not gonna ruin your progress from one meal. People run into issues when they're eating out when all of a sudden they decide, well, fuck it, I don't know, so I might as well just binge. You can't use not knowing how many calories are in a meal as an excuse to just blow it all off. You have a choice when you go to one of these places. You have a decision where even if you don't know how many calories are in the meal, you can decide, you know what, I might not know exactly, but number one, I can do my best to educated guess. Number two is I can use another source, MyFitnessPal, Mike's Macros, something to put in a meal that is similar to that and get a general estimate. That's probably my best tip if you don't have a definitive number that the restaurant gave you, is get an estimate from another source. And they might give you 3, 4, 5, 6 different estimates. Usually my strategy is if I'm trying to lose fat, trying to lose weight, I'll take the highest one. If I'm trying to gain weight, I'll take one of the lower ones. For no other reason than it's a best guess. It's better than nothing at all. It's not 100% accurate. It might only be 70% accurate, but 70% is better than 0%. 70% is better than not trying at all and just not saying, fuck it, I'm gonna have all the chips and the guac and the salsa and the margs and the desserts and all this stuff. Like, I'd rather stay on track a little bit than not at all. I think that's a really important point to remember with going to eat out. A lot of people treat it like it's binary. Like you're either 100% on track or you're completely binging. And when that's your mindset, that you're black and white, I'm either gonna completely stay on track, I'm gonna restrict, I'm gonna bring my own food in Tupperware, I'm not going at all, or fuck it, bring all the chips over, refill the chips, bring more guac, I'm gonna have all that, give me 5 margs, whatever it is. When that's your mindset, you are setting yourself up for failure. Not only just because of that one meal, but because that's your mindset for everything that you do with fitness. You're either going to be 100% on track, you're gonna restrict, you're gonna be so restrictive, you're gonna eliminate everything that could possibly get in your way, or fuck it. And that's not a sustainable way to live. We always talk about sustainability and consistency, but very little do we actually talk about the practical application of it. And this is where we practically apply it. You go to a restaurant, you don't know how many calories are in it, okay, give it your best guess. If you're not hungry and you don't wanna eat the whole meal, practice that. Sit there, practice, you know what, I don't know how many calories are in this meal, but I'm only gonna have one plate. I'm only gonna have this one plate sitting in front of me. I'm not gonna have theirs, I'm not gonna have the extra in the middle, I'm not gonna ask for seconds. What you could do, actually one of my favorite recommendations is, before the meal comes, ask them to bring a take-home box. So you can cut it in half or cut it into thirds and put in the take-home box what you're gonna take home with you, so you know you're not gonna have the entire meal. It's another really good strategy. If you don't know how many calories are in it, but odds are it's probably more than you need, boom, right at the beginning, put some in a box, save it for later. There are many ways that you can go out to eat to a restaurant where you don't know how many calories are there, and just simply give it your best guess. Don't treat it like an all or nothing, good or bad, right or wrong, all in or all out situation, because it's not. You have the power to choose. It's really just, are you willing to or not? One final note on that. A lot of people look at going out to eat for dinner or going out to a party or an event as like, that's what they need to care about. All of a sudden, everything needs to be perfect. What they forget about leading up to that event and then following the event. The event is just one part of it. A very small little blip on the screen. When you're 90 years old, you're not gonna remember that Friday night dinner. When you're 90 years old, you're not gonna be like, oh my God, that all day barbecue. Like, you won't even remember it. You won't even remember that event. What's important is what you're doing before that event and what you do after that event. Even if you go completely off track at the event, how are you beforehand? The week leading up to it, the day leading up to it. How are you after? The day after, the week after. I literally, in my Big Mac challenge, I literally just went to my buddy's wedding. I was like 21, 22 days in the challenge, like 5-6 pounds down, go to the wedding, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy myself. I didn't binge. But I was like, I'm gonna have the pretzels, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have that. I had things that I wouldn't normally have had on the challenge if I was here in New York City doing what I do every day. My weight spiked up several pounds. That's where most people say, fuck it, I quit. And we're gonna show you in the Big Mac video. My weight spiked up several pounds. I showed it on Instagram, got back on track the next day, the next 2 days, boom, came back down, hit an all-time low. Why? Because I didn't say fuck it and just went off track for the rest of the week. Got right back on track when I got home, and that's why I continue to make progress. Most people are worried about eating out at a restaurant or at a party or at a wedding or an event, when in reality what you need to be focused on is enjoying that event and just being on track before and getting back on track after.